Welcome, Ames Chamber of Commerce members. This is Drew Camp, Vice President with the Ames Chamber of Commerce, here to do another interview with our state legislators. We're happy to welcome today Representative Dave Dio, who represents Nevada and some parts of eastern and northern and southern Story County. Representative, thanks for being with us today.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Placemaking is another hot button word right now about trying to use placemaking to attract people to your area to live and recreate. How do you think we could possibly use as a state placemaking and those kind of concepts to attract and retain potential workforce?
And this is a new term for me. I haven't heard the word placemaking, so
Quality of life, yeah, kind of.
So some of the things that we've already done that are great programs. One of the things I think of in my district, most of the communities are smaller communities, and one of the things that I do when I'm going to a town, and my first impression when I drive through a town on how successful that town is usually drive up and down the Main Street, and we've got the Main Street program, and there's also some of the programs on historic tax credits have also been beneficial in some of those towns to try and update some of those buildings. That's, I think, one of the first things that can improve the way a town looks is just to kind of either get rid of old buildings that are falling down or upgrade buildings that are either historic or just old buildings that need a little bit of TLC. And those are a couple programs that I'm a big supporter of that I think we need to continue to look at, maybe even put a little bit more into those. There's a number of programs. I know I heard a little bit about your conversation with Senator Baines before I got here, and there's a lot of programs that we have that are either some federal money like trails. There's a lot of federal dollars that come through transportation with trails, and as Jerry, I agree 100% with Jerry. Those are a lot of times those can be local issues that people locally can really identify where those things that they could do in their communities.
Here with Representative Beth Wessel, who largely represents the southern part of Ames in her district. This also is related to population growth, workforce development. Placemaking is a term that frequently gets talked about, especially currently, to describe actions communities are doing to make people want to live or attract them there and retain them and have them live, work, and recreate there. How can Iowa use placemaking to their advantage to attract and retain residents and improve the overall quality of life and, like I said, address workforce shortages?
Sure. I heard Iowa is being mentioned by both parties this year, which is pretty encouraging. Iowa would be a penny increase to the sales tax. 3/8 cents of that would be constitutionally protected for outdoor recreation and environmental causes. It'd be really exciting if we could actually pass a clean I-Will bill.
Senate President Pro Tem, Senator Jerry Baines. Senator, thanks for being with us here today.
It's my pleasure, Drew. I look forward to coming and talking to you.
I kind of touched on this a little bit in this response too, but placemaking, that's a hot button word, obviously, that you hear a lot of right now to get people to come and stay here.
Well,
is there a way that the state can...
When I read that, I thought, really, that it all goes back to number one. To me, it all goes back to the being sure those jobs are here, because if the job isn't here, it doesn't matter how much playtime you have. If you can't afford to either come here, live here, work here, whatever, you're not going to be able to take advantage of those. So I think it all starts with the regulatory climate and the tax climate, and I think all the rest of that will play into it, and I think all the rest of it comes when the locals get involved and when individuals get involved. So I don't know that that's so much of a state issue. To me, that's more of a local issue, and it's more things that the businesses want to do to attract employees.
And I feel like a lot of the times when you see some of these projects, these transformational is a word that people like to use in these kinds of cases. A lot of times you see it's the city, it's the county, it's the state, it's some federal dollars coming together.
It might even be
it's
federal.
leveraging all these different things to come together to make sure that you can have that pot to really expand in that regard. We now welcome Senator Annette Sweeney, who represents Northern Story County, Eastern Story County, and all the way over towards Waterloo, Cedar Falls, and Dike, New Hartford. Senator, thanks for joining us here today.
Oh, you bet. This is always a fun time to get to be able to visit and also to hear input from other individuals about what we've got going on.
Another big topic that's being discussed a lot going into session is placemaking. It's a new hot button item, another term kind of for quality of life initiatives. And that's really how do you attract people to your location to live, work, and recreate? And how do you think Iowa and legislators in particular, like yourself, can use that to their advantage to attract and retain residents and improve the overall quality of life in Iowa?
Our individuals, as I stated earlier, especially our small families, once you get through the single lifetime, in your growing up phases, but when it comes to people wanting to put down grassroots, the small town, the feel is really coming out there. They do love their amenities. And so with your question, with the small town fest, but also our bike trails, our hiking trails. This year is the 100th anniversary for our state parks.
Oh, wow.
And we have a bunch of state parks around our state that, in fact, I've got Pine Lake just right over in Eldora. And then we did the Pine Lake Walk. So I think this could be another rediscovery for what's out there, what can really enhance people's lives and lifestyles.
Yeah, and there's a lot of small communities that are, even if they have waterways in their communities, Charles City, Manchester, that are using the rapids and things along those lines to really bring people into their community as
Yes,
well.
yes, and individuals with the whole kayaking. A lot of people like the kayaking craze, that we have individuals that will go out and even go down the streams and then stop at our state parks, or even up at Pine Lake. They will even go around the lake in their kayaks. So there's a lot of amenities out there. Sometimes people do not see those availabilities, but they're there.
And we're very grateful today to be with Representative Ross Wilburn. He represents part of North Ames in the seat previously held by Representative Heddens, now Supervisor Heddens. Representative Wilburn, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you, and thanks to the viewers out there. It's great to be here.
That brings us into the placemaking, and placemaking is kind of a big term that gets thrown out a lot now, but it's really frequently used now to describe actions that communities are taking to make them the most attractive places to live, work, recreate. How can we use placemaking to an advantage to attract and retain residents and improve the overall quality of life, and also maybe impact the workforce issues we're having as well?
Yeah, the state, the legislature, and the state have already put funding into to CAT funds, the Community Attraction and Tourism, state parks. There's investments that are going on there. When I first got started in public service, and I view it as public service, not the politics end, I was on a Parks and Recreation Commission, and so REAP funds was critical in terms of some of those natural resources that are amenities that draw people, that keep them into a community. So it would be great to have some resources, revenue to increase to help support that, because the less revenue the state is bringing in, if tax credits are going out, that if we're not looking at the effectiveness of those, we're losing some revenue. The piece of the pie, or the ingredients for the pie, shrinks, and so we have less and less available if we're not paying attention to where some of those, the effectiveness of some of those tax credits. But again, you pointed to the constitutional amendment that went through, and certainly that's another area. It's not just about trails and natural areas for fun. It's a critical part of just community. And in fact, the Economic Development Group had done a study and found that when looking at people, their ideal vacation spot or what will attract them to live in an area, for the top areas were outdoor activities and scenery, culture and arts, including festivals and events, quality restaurants, as well as economic growth and job availability. So it's not just a matter of having a place to work and live, but are you able to support yourself and your family? And we all need some way to recreate ourselves, and so it's those other amenities, but also it provides that breathing space for communities, so that we're all we want to stay here and raise our families and enjoy life.
Yeah, thanks for those statistics. Those are definitely helpful. Yeah, that's I can attest to the fact when I moved here, that was definitely some of the interesting pieces that I looked at. Thank you, Ames Chamber of Commerce members, for watching. Please do come back and listen to the next audio interviews with our next few questions for our state legislators next week.